Hi, are you Mr. Ho Pong Pei?
Yes, I am.
Spare to answer some more questions?
Sure, sure.
Great.
The one thing I've found in encountering so much diversity is that fundamentally people are really the same. And therefore, all we need to do is to allow the space for them to express themselves in a safe way, to promote the ability for them to express themselves and to be able to gather with each other and so on. And then the individual differences will iron out and they discover their commonalities. That's one of the things we've discovered dealing with over 90 nationalities across 30 over countries in our group. For example, we just finished group-wide our regional conferences of general managers where at least 20 over nationalities were represented and different races and religions. And so we just finished a number of these sessions where we get together physically with people and you get to actually see how they bond. You really see how fundamentally they are the same. And it's a very heartwarming thing because when they realize that they are fundamentally the same, then they get excited about the sameness that they are, although superficially they're very diverse. They're very excited about discovering the sameness in each other. And I think that's something that to me is very inspiring. If we believe that businesses are the key agent of change in the world, aside from governments and religions and so on, the businesses are a key driver of change. If that is the case, then business leaders have a responsibility to drive social change. Business leaders have a social mission, and part of the social mission that they should have is to promote a better world through multiculturalism. If you don't have a view that the fundamental mission of business is to build a better world, and it's only to satisfy shareholders, then the business is not going to sustain itself. And I think you've seen that in America and elsewhere. Companies die not because the CEOs are stupid. Companies die because they only seek a short-term return. So companies themselves that talk about environmental sustainability are themselves not even sustainable at all, ironic, and they're not even promoting social sustainability. So there's a huge amount of hypocrisy in businesses, and I've always believed one fundamental thing. If you just replace the word shareholder by stakeholder, and then you would easily believe that the fundamental business of any CEO is to maximize stakeholders' benefits, not shareholders' benefits. Shareholders are a key component of stakeholders, but there are a lot of other stakeholders in the world. They're in your company. I mean, there's a lot of other stakeholders. They're your employees, they're your suppliers, there's a larger community, there's your buyers, your customers. So once you just change stakeholder and replace shareholder, then the whole business mission of an enterprise changes. It's as simple as that. Institutionalized multiculturalism is definitely very strong compared to other countries. But we now have to go to the next step, I believe, and that is to promote a more dynamic form of interculturalism so that cultures within Singapore interact more with each other. The Singapore government really goes to an extraordinary degree to try to promote multiculturalism, not only in Singapore and in the region. But my take is that you cannot depend on government alone. I've lived a long enough life to see so many societies break down, too many places, to know that what the government is doing in Singapore, which is like achingly boring to all of us, they do it so boringly, but it can be overturned just like that. It is so precarious. And that's why it's so boring. It has to be done. But even government doing it is not enough. So government is doing everything it can, but if that social cohesion is not real, then it can tear apart very easily with a crisis. I didn't grow up here, but I spent my adult life here, so I've seen and admired the way the Singapore government has institutionalized multiracialism in a way that was almost forced upon Singaporeans. And I think it was absolutely necessary given Singapore's colonial history, where our colonial masters actually wanted the different cultures and races to be separate. There was a divide and rule by the British. So it was very hard to enforce multiculturalism, and the government did it. I think the problem is that going now into 60 years and so on, there has got to be a different dimension. We've succeeded now. Everybody in Singapore respects, every majority religion, majority race respects the minorities. But how much are people in Singapore, as opposed to the government, how much are people truly interested in not multiculturalism but interculturalism, really going out of their way to learn about somebody else's culture, going to visit your friend's home. Interracial marriages, I hope, have been on the increase in Singapore, because that to me is one sign of social cohesion. So a lot more has been done by the people, by civil society. I think we can become complacent precisely because government has done all the heavy lifting, and that's not fair to government. The heavy lifting now has to be done by people themselves. The one mindset they should not have is not my problem. Generally, younger Singaporeans have grown up complacent that, well, Singapore's harmonious, Singapore's good, Singapore's wealthy. All the problems here that exist are other people's problems. And then therefore, they either blame government for not doing certain things, or they demand government do other things. I think there has got to be greater recognition that as we move into a world where government's presence will be hopefully less pervasive in social areas, not necessarily in military or foreign affairs, but in the social community life of Singapore, government's role should be less than it was before. Younger Singaporeans must take up the lead. Younger Singaporeans must have that sense of agency that they must be the drivers of change. If they want a better society, don't just blame government or ask government to do it. You do it yourself. They should get together and say, we will make it a better society. You would find, ironically, that when I visit countries that are very poor, when I speak to young people from poor countries, their sense of social agency, of personal agency, is more than young Singaporeans, because nobody is there to help them. Nobody is going to help them. So if they're going to have a better life, they have to do it themselves. So I find the sense of agency among younger people in less privileged societies actually stronger than young people in a privileged society in Singapore. So my message to you is, whatever your dream is, go and get it, and don't ask anybody else for it. Of course, you want your parents to help, you want government to help, you want employers to help, but whatever it is, you only depend on yourself, and you can do it. Other people have come out of total poverty in Indonesia and India and so on because they depend on themselves. And you can make your life, you can achieve your dream, and don't let anybody else say otherwise.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just rest my arm for a bit. Oh my God.
I'll reply very short. The heavy lifting now has to be done by people themselves. Rest your arm.